Hey everybody, how's it going? It is Coach Malcolm here, and one of my more recent videos was on notation, and specifically, how do we notate? Uh, what letter do we use for each square on the board? Sorry, for each piece, and then how do we write down each square on the board, and then just our moves in general. And this is going to be a sort of continuation of that. I'm going to be talking about a few more, I guess you could call them, just a little bit more advanced ways to annotate your games, right? Because that's what notation is, recording, almost like annotating your games, and then end it off with a few notation tips because it's easy to, remember R stands for rook and Q stands for queen, and that F3 is right over here. But what's sometimes hard, especially for beginning players who aren't used to notating, is just sort of remembering to keep notation something that you are consistently engaged in that you don't forget about, because oftentimes, if we jump from move 7 to move 18 all of a sudden because we forgot for a couple moves, it's very hard to figure out what happened. So we're going to start off with just a few examples of just some more advanced things because they're just a little bit fun. The first, I'm just going to go through a quick game. We're going to just look at en passant. So what we're going to do is we're just going to have black play f5 on this position here, so we know that white can take here. Again, how we're going to play en passant move, right? E takes f6 is, of course, what happens. So, usually if this pawn was on f6, in my last video, we take the e file where the pawn is on instead of saying p. The x marks the capture single, and then we are taking on f6, so it's e takes f6. In this case, our pawn is on f5. So we are still technically arriving on f6. So you can write e takes f6. I'll just write it over here so we can see. You can still write e takes f6 if you want to make it clear in your game that it's en passant. En passant is, starts en, and then passant starts with a p. So you could do e dot p. So this is how I would write it in one of my games. It would be e takes f6, e dot p dot. Sure, right? And that just means you're doing an en passant sort of move, okay? Now, let's keep going with our wonky game here. What about promotions, right? How do we write that we're promoting to a piece? Because obviously this pawn can take here. So let's just try and think about it first. We know this pawn is on the G file, so that is G. We're going to capture this rook, takes, and we are capturing on H8. So now how do we write the promotion thing? We are turning into a new piece, so it's almost like an equation like you would do in math class. This is going to, here we go, equal a queen. So we turn it into whatever piece it is. In this case, I would recommend promoting to a queen, but whatever it is, you promote to the letters. So promoted to a rook, it's an R. You're promoting to a knight for some very special reason, and bishop B, and we know we can't promote to another pawn or a king. But a fun fact that I actually learned pretty recently is that I'm not sure exactly when. I think it was maybe definitely several decades ago. You used to be able to promote to a pawn, and you were able to stay a pawn for, I think, at least, or maybe at the most, one move. But there was a time where you could promote to a pawn for a certain amount of time. And here is the other notation we are going to do. So a good move, we're not going to go through all of these, but a good move, like a very stellar move, would get an exclamation mark. So if we wanted to, we could even do G takes H8 equals queen, exclamation mark, because this is, a great move for white. I don't necessarily use the exclamation mark and the question mark, which we'll get to in a second, in my own games, but they're more used for analysis. So if you're looking at a game, on a certain website and it has an exclamation mark, now you know what it means. And what is a question mark? Well, a question mark, we could say right here, bishop d6, if we wanted to write that out, right? Because our bishop is on d6, if we're going right across. This is going to be bishop d6 question mark, because question marks are used for mistakes, and this is obviously a mistake because now we get our exclamation mark move. Okay, so obviously that is, just a few things that are just a bit of an addition to your, we can just say your, in your head, your booklet of knowledge on notation and notation skills. So like I said, next up, what we are going to be doing is just quickly talking about some tips that we have during our notation games, right? Some more ideas to keep us having consistent basis. So what I do, and what is something that I learned very much so from Coach West, is a strategy that you take during your game. So for the purpose of this, practice, let's say we are playing white, right? And we play our first move and we play e4. The very first thing we do, this is going to be my notation sheet over here, okay? A is white and B is black. The very, very, very first thing we do is write out our move, e4. And then what I would do, I'm writing this with my pencil. Let's just use our imagination since we're on YouTube. I place my pencil right in between the two files. And this just allows you to almost release some of the stress from the game. Take a moment to center yourself. Once you place your pencil, you know you've notated your move. You go back to the board. Now, let's say my opponent plays e5, okay? What I usually do, right after my opponent makes their move, right after I realize and I register they've played e5, I write down e5. Oops, not at that. e5, and then I place my pencil where? Right in the center of these two pieces. I center myself, take a deep breath, you look at the board, right? e5 is a pretty normal move. Even when my opponents play crazy moves, if I was playing white here and I played e4 and my opponent played f5, I might look at it for half a second, but the very, very next thing I would do is write f5 because I'm not going to forget to notate. I'm going to place my pencil in the middle, I'm going to take a deep breath, and I'm going to think, why in the world did they play f5 move 1, okay? So if we were going through a regular game, right, it would go e4. Okay, my opponent here, he played e5, e5, put my pencil in the middle, think for a second, knight f3, okay? Knight f3, boom, put it in the system, knight c6. If I, for some reason, made a blunder like bishop a6, it's easy to, freak out, but you don't want to alert your opponent that you've made a mistake. You want to know if they'll see it or not. So the first thing I would do, put my bishop a6 into the notation because it happened. I can't take it back. Put my pencil in the middle of the board and think about how I can come back in the game. So, like I'm saying, every single move, hopefully we'll play a move better. Bishop b5, I would, well, knight f3 here. See, I forgot. Knight c6, we can't be forgetting. This is what happens when you try and rush through a video like this. Knight c6, I forgot to place my pencil in the middle, but now bishop b5. Write down that bishop b5 move, place my pencil right in the middle of the column, take a deep breath. So you should be doing this every single move. Right after you play your move, right after your opponent plays. Not after you play and your opponent play, after every single move. We're writing down our moves, taking that time. And I think this strategy that Coach West taught me that I use in every single game I play now, where you either place your pencil on the line of the move, you place your pencil in the middle, or you just do something in order to center yourself, in order to release some of the stress, because chess can be a stressful game, in order to, take that deep breath, and just to always remember to take that notation is what we should do. So, again, like I said in the last video, if you guys want, I know we are, for the most part, playing games on ChessKid. You have your serious matches during the day. If you are interested in, for some of those matches, pulling out a notation sheet, thinking, you know what, I don't have anything better to do. Why don't I work on my notation skills so that when we have our tournaments open back up again, I'm an absolute pro and I can learn the most out of my games? I would strongly encourage that idea. So I hope to see you guys do that. But that is the end of this video. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.